Voice is entering Tingsboro. I'm Roni Camille. Thanks for joining us. We're having candid conversations about what's happening in town and in the community. Today on this program, we're talking about the upcoming town election and the office of the town clerk. We have Joanne Shifres, who is the town clerk, with us. Joanne, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Joanne, let's take a preview at a gambit of what's happening at the annual town election, which is happening on Tuesday, May 21st. Can you kind of run through who's going to be on the ballot, who's running? Here's a specimen ballot for you.
Sheet.
Here's the cheat sheet.
We have, for select board, we have Eric Eldridge, who's running for re-election, and we have Jacqueline Gilfus, who's the first time running. And there are 2 seats, 2 people. There's only one race that is contested. So the Board of Assessors, Marie Lambert, is running for re-election. The Board of Health is both Steve Jeanette and Michael Ryan Roach are running for re-election. Constables, we have Donald DeMarais and John Pelletier, both running for re-election. The Cemetery Commissioner is Ed Derby. However, based on the new DPW passage, there will not be a cemetery commission necessarily. Finance Committee are both new candidates. There's Earl Mason and Carolyn Scafidi, and this is the first time either of them have run. Library trustees are running for re-election, Mary Allgrove and Paula Flaherty. Housing Authority, John Pelletier is running for re-election. Now, the Housing Authority is a 5-year term. And then there's another Housing Authority position open for a 2-year term, and that's because it's filling somebody's spot who resigned. Planning Board is also a board that is a 5-year board. David E. Robson is running for re-election. School Committee, as I said earlier, is the only race that is contested. Rob Mullen, Anthony Tenerella are both running for re-election. Stacy Guido and David Merwin are both newcomers. Sewer Commission is Darrell Wickens. He's running for re-election. And the town clerk is new, Jessica Brunel, because my retirement is once she gets elected. So that's the preview of the election. I'm hoping that there is a significant turnout. People deserve to be supported in their quest for elected office.
And not to bury the lead, I wanted to kind of get into all the roles that you do in your office and all that. But as you just said, you are retiring. And how long have you served as town clerk for the town of Tingsboro?
For 21 years.
21 years. And how does that feel to just, say you're ready to, pass the torch on to the presumptive? Looks like on the ballot would be Jessica Brunel coming in, taking over in a few weeks. How does that feel?
It's hard. It's, this has been my life for so long that, I do so many things, I've said to you before, that I don't even really know what I do because I just automatically do things.
And we'll get to that in a brief moment. And so, you and your family, you and your husband, you moved to Tingsboro. When did you move to this community?
1985.
And when did you you weren't always the town clerk. You did other things before running for town clerk. You were involved in the community. What else did you do?
I got involved in 1991 when I joined the Finance Committee. So I served on the Finance Committee for 2 or 3 years. Might have been 3 years. May have been 4, actually. Because I came in, somebody resigned from the Finance Committee. So I went on as an appointment, and then I ran. So it was probably a little over 3 years when I was on Finance Committee. And from Finance, I went to Zoning Board of Appeals. And I served there for probably 3 years. Then it was the feasibility committee to build this town hall and library. And then I chaired the building committee to build the town hall and library. And then I was hired as the assistant town clerk in 2002 and ran for election in 2003. So I've had 7 terms as the town clerk.
It's a long time. What's the one thing that sticks out to you in your time here in town?
The people that I've met. I've had, obviously, for being here that long, you have the opportunity to meet many, many, many different people in different roles, whether it's licensing their dog or doing a business certificate, excuse me, or I'm filling out the application, the intentions to get married. There are a lot of different things. So I've met a lot of different people. And by being involved in all the committees and boards, obviously I've met people that way through that as well. And so I'll miss that to a large extent. And I have to be honest, most of the time, people have always been very nice. My office generally doesn't get people screaming at us. The biggest thing that people get upset about is the fact that if they don't license their dog on time, they get a $25 late fee. But that's a town bylaw. And if people don't like that, then they should work to change the bylaw. It's not something that I put into effect. And I'm just following the bylaw.
And so let's talk about the actual office. When we think of the town clerk's office, we think of elections, marriage, birth, deaths, and you mentioned the dog licensing. But it's more than that, right?
Yes, there's a lot more.
What can you kind of, for those, who will be listening to this podcast or watching it on video, the high level view of what your office handles?
One of the big things that we handle are all the cemetery records. And again, I think that's going to the new DPW. But for now, all the cemetery records, we have the deeds, the maps, and the book, excuse me, that records it all. I get the burial permits from the cemetery commissioner, and he emails me with, Joe Smith wants to buy such and such a grave. Can you do the deed? And then I collect the money and turn the money into the treasurer's office. And then I file all the deeds and I record them in. There's a book that we record all the information, both from burial permits, burials, and the deeds. So that's one thing that people don't generally expect to be done at the clerk's office. One of the other things is the underground storage tanks. I license them every year.
And that's the gas tanks.
Yes.
Town.
There's about 15 of those.
Okay.
So they're all various amounts based on the size of the tanks. The lowest is $10. And they go up to 100. Interesting.
And then you also coordinate with the state with records, voter registration. What else? There's other things you coordinate with a lot with the state that you've done over the years.
The census. The federal census is done every 10 years. So when I was hired, essentially, the prior clerk who was interviewing me said, well, Joanne, it takes 10 years to learn this job. And this was in August, and she said, and oh, by the way, I'm leaving in May. So I'm driving home, of course, this is before cell phones. I get home and I said, Dorothy, that's not 10 years according to my calculations. Oh, but you can call me.
And
So,
here you are in 2024.
in 2024. It's been a great ride. I mean, it's, like I said, everybody's actually more. 99% of the people are very easy to talk with and deal with, and it's not an issue.
And so you are not leaving right away. You're going to be sticking around for a little bit and help whomever will presumptively, Jessica Brunel or whomever it might be.
Well, under state law, the state clerk stays 1 week. And of course, because we're closed on Fridays, that 1 week, the election is on Tuesday. That 1 week is Wednesday and Thursday. Monday is Memorial Day. So then it's the following Tuesday. So it's really 3 days. So obviously she's not going to learn everything or much in 3 days. But I will come back and teach her things so that she will feel comfortable. Another thing that is handled in the office is we maintain all the zoning board and planning board applications and decisions, and we record all those. Then what else? Census, like I said, that's annual. The federal census is every 10 years, but the town census is annually. Fishing licenses, hunting licenses, what else? Maintaining all the voter records. And in the state system now, when you have any transaction at the RMV or state agencies, the RMV particularly, generates a voter registration. Even if you don't want to be registered, if you do anything at the Registry of Motor Vehicles, renew your license, get a new license, like the 16-year-olds, they're automatically registered to vote. And I have had people, because I send out acknowledgments that we received your voter registration, and I have had people come into the office with that notice and say, I don't want to be registered to vote. I didn't say that I wanted to be registered to vote. So in order to not be on the voter rolls, you just need to write on the acknowledgement, I choose not to be registered, and sign your name. I cannot take anybody off the voter rolls without a signature. So they do that, and then I can remove them.
I've got 2 questions for you. What is the one thing piece of advice you could give to your successor? And the second question, what is the, parting words to the community?
For Jessica, I would say just be patient, because your frustration today, because you don't know something or understand something, you'll know tomorrow. And not everything in the office is a 10-year process. There's only the federal census, because the town census you do every single year. Every day there's voter registrations. The town election is once a year. Every 4 years is the presidential. So it's very cyclical. Every April of the storage, the gas permits, January, February, March is the census. Dogs start in January. Summer is relatively slow. You may have a flurry of dog licensing because people are taking their dogs with them when they go camping and can't take the dog unless it's registered. And obviously I think it starts in November, starts with the hunting licenses. And then come the first of the year, the fishing licenses. So it's one of the best parts of the position is the variety, because you're always doing something different. There's a lot of steps involved and a lot required for running an election, whether it's the town a little bit more so because it's my responsibility. Like, I'm responsible to get an adequate number of ballots for the election. It's my decision how many to order. The state and federal elections, they decide, and they just send. But if I run out of ballots, it's my neck for a town election. So obviously I have way more ballots than I need at all the elections because I can't take that chance that everybody wants to vote.
That's true. Well, I appreciate you addressing that. Any other final thoughts that you want to share?
It's really been great. As I said at town meeting, it's been a good ride, but it's some time for somebody else to drive the bus.
Joanne Shifres, Town Clerk for the town of Tingsboro. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And
Thank you.
I'm so just honored to be a colleague and a friend. And of course, I'll be seeing you around.
Many times. Thank you.
And that is all the time that we have today on the Entering Tingsboro podcast. If you want to learn more about your town's government, visit the Town of Tingsboro's website at tingsboroma.gov. I'm Roni Camille. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be well.